What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at cartwheel kicks, something that has become synonymous with Saenchai. And this is a kick that I actually threw in my first professional fight. In the last 10 seconds, I recognized, okay, the fight is pretty much over. I might as well bust out a goofy technique. Just kind of went off the guy's guard, but that's the case with this kick most of the time anyway. But we'll talk about that, how to execute the technique, the practicality of this technique, how to stay safe when flipping your world upside down. Cartwheel kick, guys. That's what we're talking about today. All right, with any technique, one of the first things we need to establish is distance. If we don't understand what distance we should be throwing the technique, we end up jamming ourselves, for example, on a jab, or we end up way out of range missing. So it's the same thing with this cartwheel kick. We want to have a good understanding of how far away we should be. Once we've accomplished that, we can move into actually practicing the technique a little bit more, but distance is very important. Now, normally when we throw a round kick, and this is essentially a fancy round kick, we're gonna be about this length away. But from here, for the cartwheel kick, the danger is if I go to cartwheel and I lean forward, I'm really jamming myself and I'm potentially putting myself into that range for the knee. So a lot of times I prefer to throw from back here, and you will see Saenchai do the same thing. He throws from a very far distance. Sometimes executing at the end of his techniques, then rolling over, but very often off a catch of his opponent's kicks. Once you've caught their kicks, you can keep them out here, which is a little further than you'd want to be for a solid round kick if you're landing with your shin. You can even give them a little push backwards to off balance them, to preoccupy them, and then you can roll into the cartwheel. Now that we understand the distance, we know that we want to be fairly far away. Let's start breaking down how to actually execute and land this kick. And the first thing, if you're somebody who's done a little gymnastics or you've tried cartwheels, is you go, oh, cartwheel kick. I'm gonna put both hands down to the ground, one after the other. But no, we're not gonna do that. This cartwheel kick is essentially a one-arm cartwheel. We're gonna go off our lead arm. That is the one that's gonna connect down to the ground. The kicking leg, which will be our rear leg, is gonna be the one that flares up and then snaps down. And the leftover leg is just gonna bend. It's just gonna bend in the air. Now, because of gravity, if I go here and I let my legs hang out and I try and round kick this direction, I'm just gonna topple over. So what I really need to do is get my hips above my head, which is above my hand, almost making a direct line straight up. Now, once I've accomplished that, I can end up trying to just throw my weight over and land all of it onto this knuckle or these knuckles. Now, unfortunately, there's no way for you to really just slowly progress into doing it. It's not like, okay, I'll throw my front kick slow and then a little faster and a little faster. Anything with jumps, with our weight off the ground, or most of the fancy techniques, they require you just really giving it a shot, maybe falling over, and then trying again. But my big first pointer, and I notice this lots of time when I teach people just how to do cartwheels, is they try to go bent arm. When they do their cartwheel, their arms are bent, and then obviously their arms give out. When you come down for your cartwheel kick, you want this not maybe to be 100% locked, but very close. Don't try and bend it. Number one, that's gonna bring your head closer to the floor. Number two, it's much easier for your arm to collapse under the weight as opposed to being almost locked out. Now, I like to get a little bit lower as well. Instead of going from way up here at full height when I tip forward, there's lots of weight that hits my hand. Just getting a little lower makes things a little bit easier because the ground is closer. Now, if you want, you can practice just getting your hand down to the ground and just quickly elevating your hips and then coming back down. It's just a split second. It's just up, and the whole time I'm trying to track this guy's head. I'm just going, okay, I want to see this guy and not lose sight of him. If I look away, I don't know what I'm hitting. So that's a progressionary motion for you. It's not easy to do. Obviously, I'm falling over right away, but I'm still getting just used to hand comes to the ground, feet come up. But I'm still getting used to my hand coming to the ground and my feet rising above my hips. Now, in terms of getting your feet back on the ground, after this technique, what I found to be the easiest is the kicking leg, the one that comes up here. That's gonna be elevated for longer. But the foot that's tucked under, that is gonna be the one to reconnect to the ground. Now, this of course depends on if you hit your cartwheel kick and it comes out the way it went in, or if you go straight through. But it's very rare where you see a cartwheel kick actually hit somebody and go straight through, because the reality of this kick is it's not super powerful. It's not going to be your knockout technique. This is just one that's fun, it's showboaty, and it just kind of shows your dominance over your opponent, that you're able to even execute it. Whether that's the case or not is up for debate, but it's just something that the crowd also really enjoys. So if you can actually get it into your fight and throw it, why not? So we've talked about getting the hips up, we've talked about the hand to the ground, having that arm fairly locked out. We've talked about our landing. Now it's time to actually try and execute this kick. And fear is always a big thing that stops us. You very often just have to jump in and do this kick. Remembering that it's not coming on this angle. It's not like a normal round kick. It's coming down. So I get far away. I get nice and low like I said before. I can throw some techniques. Maybe just play around, and then when I'm ready, I just fake up high, and then when I'm ready, I just commit my weight down to the ground, keep my eyes on his head, and you can see on that one, the left leg, which tucks in, that folds under while this leg is kicking, it then straightens back out to catch me. And most of the time, like I said, you hit and you bounce out. If you're doing pads, you're gonna bounce out of the kick. If you hit somebody with their guard up, which usually you will, you're gonna bounce out of the kick. Let's try this again. Down nice and low. I just commit my weight forward, eyes up, and up. And on that one, I slipped right over the top. That was accidental. I didn't actually mean to, but Bob's head gives away a little bit there. But I'll try one more time. I'm gonna aim a little lower now, more for his trap. Down nice and low, tap, tap, hook. If you want to execute this on Thai pads, let's talk about how somebody should properly hold for you without making mistakes, without getting their head kicked. Number one, if the guy's gonna come straight over top, you can, if these are Thai pads, you can just take Thai pads and go like that. But personally, I prefer to take a round kick position, because I could have the guy round kick, round kick, round kick, and then I just lean back a little bit, and I get those Thai pads nice and high. There's a very, very low risk here of him actually missing, and the force of this kick is not enough where it's gonna smash the Thai pads into my head. That's my preferred go-to one. I've seen people hold like this, but I prefer to just catch that angle. Now I wanna talk about some of the finer details of this kick and the dangers of throwing your head down. If there's a risk of you getting a low kick knocked out. And the reality is I've never actually seen somebody take the bad side of a counter shot when they're cartwheel kicking. But most of the guys who throw this are very high level. So let's talk about why you're not getting that round kick to the face. First of all, once you land your kick, you've got to get right back to your feet. You don't want to hang out and dangle sort of in this position for too long. You execute your kick and you're right back out. Now, next you want to think about, where is my hand placement? That's very important. If I'm facing towards you guys and you're my opponent, and I put my hand right down in a straight line between you and I'm going to be in that position where the low kick sure can land. If I come out a little bit on a 45, I create more of an angle for my round kick, or cartwheel kick, sorry, and then I also get myself just slightly off that line, that center line, and that's what I prefer to do. When I am throwing on Bob here, I'm not putting my hand right here, I'm going out to the side just very slightly. I'm a pretty firm believer on this technique that most people of intermediate or up skill level can actually execute this. My kids class, most of the guys can do it. You don't need to be able to cartwheel to throw a cartwheel kick. They are a little bit different, and it's just a confidence thing which you have to boost up. Flipping your world upside down, getting your feet above your head, knowing that you're not going to fall and knock yourself out. None of that's going to happen, but I think that's a fear that many people have. A lot of the kids that I teach have that fear. Once they get over it, once they just go, okay, I'm going to try it, then they get comfy with it and they can start letting that kick go in pad work. Now, in terms of should you be throwing this in sparring, let's talk about that. Even though I haven't seen this kick really do much damage in any fights, it is something that can knock you out, or you can knock your opponent out if they do something very wrong, like dropping their hands and taking it on the chin. Normally, most people will see your weight go down, they'll see the leg come up, and they'll recognize right away, okay, my head needs to stay protected. But this is a hard kick to control. Once you have that hand on the ground and your legs are coming in the air, it's very difficult to pull out of it. You basically have to hit something and then bounce out. If somebody's hands happen to drop and all you have to bounce off is their chin, somebody's gonna get hurt. So be very aware that you want to start off this technique mostly in pads. Pads are the best. You can try it on the bag, although just because of the angle of most bags, it's not as great. It's nicer to have something that you can come over top, which is why pad work is my preference. And if you are going to try and sparring, make sure you do have an understanding that you need to be looking up. You don't want to blindly do this and then knock somebody out. Always, as I drop, keeping my eyes on the target. This is no doubt a fun kick, guys. One that I hope you take a moment or two just to try out, see if it's something you want to add to your arsenal just for kicks, just for jokes. But that is all for me today. If you guys enjoyed the little tutorial, be sure to give the video a like. If you haven't already, guys, join the channel and get subscribed. Train hard. I'll see you back here soon for another video.